Skyler, thank you so much for joining me today. I cannot wait to share your story and for people to get to know you like I have over the past year. Like, you're one dynamic woman, and we have a lot to learn today. So I'm pumped. But why don't we kick it off with who you are? Who is Skyler?
Yeah, well, thanks, Emily. I really appreciate you inviting me. This is something I've been watching and following. It's so exciting to be a part of it. So my name's Skyler. I'm 19 years old, so I'm kind of a baby, but I pride myself on that. I grew up, born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I currently intern and attend Central Christian Church. It's the church I grew up at, so it's my home for sure. I really love sweets, so but I'm also like a running fanatic, so it kind of balances itself out. Donuts and chocolate and candy, that's my life. So,
Awesome.
And then I just go to the gym to balance it out, so I'm not 300 pounds. But
Solid.
if you ever want to eat cupcakes together, I appreciate it.
I'm down.
Yes.
For sure.
For sure. So besides that, it's kind of a life I lead. A little boring,
Awesome.
but
No, that does not sound boring at all. So I would love to first ask you, if you were sitting across from another woman, just like what we're doing right now, and you were to share with her encouragement for her own becoming journey, what would you say to her?
yeah. Definitely, I think what God's been teaching me this last season and something that I really felt on my heart to share is 3 little words, and it's, you are enough. It's really simple, and I actually ended up writing on the back of a rock a few months ago at a women's retreat, and it was just words that I felt like God gave me, and it's something I've been living by. And I feel like in the society that we live in, you know, anytime that we're put in a position where we have to face fear, we have to face something that might be a little bit harder, we all of a sudden have these fears of inadequacy. I think especially as women, we attack ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
For me, this last season, I have, really struggled with feeling that, I think sometimes we feel like we're not old enough, or pretty enough, or skinny enough, or even, smart enough, or have great leadership capability, or be wise enough. There's just so many things that we can knock ourselves for what we don't have. And I think what I would really want to encourage a woman is, she's enough. And what's even better is when God calls us, when He wants to use us, He knows that we're enough too. And I think oftentimes we have to remember that, because what we lack, He gains. And He really, really gives into that. And what I think has been so amazing, and what's something that I've been realizing, is when we deal with these inadequacies, when God calls us these places, He shows up.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that. And He knows what our inadequacies are, so He chooses to use us anyways. And so for me, I want to encourage that to anyone who's listening, anyone who's watching, that really God is so enough. And, He knows who we are. He knows that we're His daughters, and that we're enough for Him. And that's really all that should matter.
Absolutely. That's huge. I love everything that you just said. And, you mentioned that this last season has been a huge part of you even understanding that. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I was offered an internship at Central Christian Church, which is something that wasn't necessarily on my radar. It came completely out of the blue, but when praying about it, it definitely seemed what God was calling me to do, and I fell in love with that internship. I fell in love with what I got to do and how unexpected it was. And the leader who was a part of that, Nathan, who was kind of my boss, and he was the pastor of the ministry that I worked for, he was just so dynamic, and he had such great vision. I was so excited to be a part of what God was going to do through that. And the first 6 months of my internship, that's exactly what it was. It was incredible. And then last January, he sat all of our team down and announced that he actually was offered a position to be a campus pastor in another church all the way across the country. And my world was rocked, for sure. And even though Nathan was an awesome mentor to me, I remember the first thought that came to my mind sitting in that room was, what's going to happen to me? What is this going to look like? Because our ministry had only been around for less than a year. And so I wasn't sure what that was going to look like, if that ministry was still going to exist or anything. And as I was praying more about it, and I was kind of dealing with that and coping with that, I really felt God was telling me, no, Skyler, you need to do more.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy, because I felt like I was already doing so much, and God was saying, know. And as conversations began to happen about who was going to kind of start leading out in this ministry, it really fell on me and Brianna, who is the other intern with me. And that was really terrifying. At first it was kind of like, okay, yeah, it's kind of a big deal, but it's fine. But as soon as Nathan left in February, all of a sudden Brianna and I had this moment where it was like, we don't really have a leader, you know? And even though we have mentors and pastors who are, you know, leading out in the group's area, it was definitely really hard to figure that out. And stepping out to a leadership position at 19 years old, I was actually 18 at the time, which is even crazier. I really didn't know what to do. There were so many times that leadership decisions would fall on me or on Brianna and I together, and I wasn't sure. Yeah. And I'm definitely in the business of running. I love to run away and hide and not deal with it. I definitely have a Jonah spirit rather than a David spirit. David faces the giant, I run away. So there have been so many times where things will happen and, you know, there would be relational issues within the ministry, or there would just be a lot of things going on, and I said, I don't want to deal with this, God. Like, why am I dealing with this? And I really felt God really say, no, Skyler, like, you need to do this. And so sometimes there's conversations that I would have to have where I had to lay down my pride, and I had to be a selfless leader rather than a selfish one, and I had to look to other people's things. And, you know, so many times the fear and the lies, they just pop into my mind saying, Skyler, you graduated high school a year ago. You know, Skyler, you're 19. Why is anyone ever going to listen to you? What kind of influence do you have over people who are 10 years older than you? You know, when you're leading 20-year-olds and you're 19, that's terrifying. You know, those lies that you tell yourself, like, why would they ever think my idea is a good idea? And it was really hard. And it's still hard sometimes. Just because I'm learning through it and God's been teaching me a lot through it, it doesn't necessarily mean that those lies don't keep coming.
So what do you do to coach yourself through the lies?
Yeah, so, you know, a few months ago at the women's retreat that Central hosted, I felt God tell me those 3 words, you are enough. And through that, I really learned that I have to stop telling myself that I'm inadequate. Yeah. I have to stop those lies right there. Sometimes, you know, it's a lot of self-talk. And even though I think sometimes that things can come from other people and you just have to deflect that, a lot of times it's lies that we tell ourselves. Yeah. And so for me, I really just had to stop myself where I'm at. And sometimes that's just praying about it because I know that it's not true. Yeah. The biggest thing for me is really being confident in where I'm at. You know, I may be 19 and have little to no experience in ministry, but God has me in that position for a reason. And even though Nathan left and it was like awful, you know, He has called me to this first season, and I have to be faithful with what He's given me. Absolutely. And I think I would be doing a disservice to Him if I was just wanting to run away and hide and say, you know what, God, I don't want this anymore. But really, like, I need to accept that and stand firm and confident in knowing that He's called me to this for a reason. And I need to be confident and walk in the fact that He thinks I'm enough. I might not think that I'm enough. Other people might not think I'm enough. But for some reason, He decided to choose me and use me in that. So
that's huge.
It's been crazy. Yeah.
That's huge. Oh my, I love your story. Thank you for taking the time to share it with us.
Yeah.
And the empowering and true words that we are enough. And He's going to equip us if He calls us. And that's huge.
Yeah.
So thank you, Skyler, for sharing.
Thanks, Emily.
I really appreciate it.